In this Passover season, I want to share with you some insights regarding the parallels between the life of Jesus Christ and things that have been happening in the history of Israel. It will be a little bit longer, so it will be spread over several weeks. The table shown here can be overwhelming because it contains a lot of information. So take your time, pause the video and try to grasp what's in this table. It's just very hard to present all that information in a simple way. Most things in this table are not really relevant to this teaching, but I go quickly over them anyway. On the left, in blue, we see the Roman way of counting hours, from the first hour during midnight to the 12th hour at noon, and again 12 hours to midnight. On the column right to it, we see how we count the same time in the West on the 24-hour system. The next rows are very relevant for this little study. We see the hours, the first hour, the second hour, third hour. Those hours are mentioned in scripture. That's why they are very important. Then in the column next to it, we see something that really happened in the natural world, in the temple. Because we will see that the last hours of Jesus were actually following a pattern that has been repeated thousands of times. As long as the temple stood, there was a certain cycle of things that was done over and over and over and over and over again. And Jesus' last day on earth was exactly according to that pattern. So all those thousands of times those things took place in the temple, they were a foreshadowing to Jesus. They were pointing to him. The priest just did those sort of things. Why? Well, simply because they were told to do so. But they didn't know why, they just followed orders. And now, nearly 2000 years ago, it became clear why. Well, not to everyone obviously, because many rejected it, but some saw it, and I hope that after this video you see it as well. Okay, before the event started, Jesus had the Last Supper, then he was arrested, he was interrogated during the night, and we just skip forward to the moment that it turns daylight. Very, very early in the morning, early dawn. Okay, first the pattern that was repeated many times. In the first hour of the day, a priest went out to the field outside of the temple and took a lamp, put a rope around the lamp, he walked with it to the altar of the temple, altar of burnt offering, which had on the corners had 4 horns. He just tied the lamp to that altar. That's it. The lamp just stood there for several hours. On the third hour, the lamp was killed. And at that moment, the temple opened its doors for the public. To be clear here, I am talking about an animal lamp, not the lamp of God Jesus, no, just an animal lamp. Thousands, many thousands were killed that way. Okay, then in the 6th hour, another lamp was taken from the fields to the altar, tied to the altar, and it got a drink from a golden cup. Then that lamp stood there just for several hours again. During the 9th hour, the lamp was killed by the priest, and the priest says, "It is finished." And this cycle of things happened over and over and over again, but also during the crucifixion time, during the crucifixion day of Jesus, because it was all about him. It was all pointing to him. And now we will see how. Likely you already read a little bit ahead, so you already got it, but I still will explain part after part, verse after verse. Luke 22:66 reads, "When it was day, the council of elders of the people assembled, both chief priests and scribes, and they led him away to their council chamber, saying," and in Mark 15:1 we read, "Early in the morning, the chief priests with the elders, scribes, and entire council immediately held a consultation, and he bound Jesus and led him away and turned him over to Pilate." The first important thing here to see is that it was early in the day, early in the morning. That means it was the first hour. It was the first hour that the altar was prepared. Jesus was before the council, that means before the court of those biased priests. He was before court and he was prepared for the day. And we all know what that day was. But the altar, Jesus, metaphorically speaking, the altar was prepared. And then read very closely in Mark 15, that says, "They bound Jesus and led him away." They bound him. And that's exactly what happened to the animal lambs. They were bound from the field. In the field, they were bound with a rope and they were led to the altar. And likewise, Jesus was bound, like, let's see it like something like handcuffs, way of bound likely, and he was led to Pilate. So the animal lamb was tied up with a rope. He was led to the altar and tied there, and the Lamb of God was bound by the priest and led to Pilate, which in a way acted as an altar of sacrifice, because ultimately Jesus died by permission of Pilate, so to speak. The next step in the daily routine of the priests was they killed the animal lamb during the third hour, And what happens with Jesus at that very moment? We see in Mark 15:25. Now it was the third hour when they crucified him. See, the third hour, Jesus was crucified and the lamb was killed. Well, Jesus did not die at that point, but in a way, he died at that point because Pilate had the power to stop the death of Jesus. And Pilate gave in to the demands of the priest and he said, okay, you can have him. Do what you want with him. I wash my hands in innocence, but do what you want. So that point, Pilate sealed the death sentence of Jesus. Pilate didn't have to do it. He had the force and the army to not do it. But anyway, he sentenced Jesus to death, and in a way, Jesus died at that moment. Okay, now we arrive at the 6th hour. In the daily routine of the priests, the second lamb was taken from the field, tied to the altar, and was given a drink. Mark 15, verse 33. When the 6th hour came, darkness fell over the whole land until the 9th hour. Here again we see two things aligning. The 6th hour, the animal lamb was tied to the altar, and at the 6th hour, during the crucifixion, the darkness started. Beyond that, I don't see the parallel. I don't see how the tying of the lamb is a parallel to the starting of the darkness, but still, please note the 6th hour as those two events aligned. Now we have arrived at the 9th hour, the hour in which the darkness that started on the 6th hour ends. The verses John 19:29 and 30 are relevant to the 9th hour, the last hour. A jar full of sour wine was standing there. So they put a sponge full of sour wine on a branch of hyssop and brought it to his mouth. Therefore, when Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, "It is finished," and he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. So during the 9th hour, Jesus said, "It is finished." The priest that killed the animal lamb in the temple also said, "It is finished." So that's another parallel, the killing of the lamb and the exact words. If you have studied the picture well, you have noticed that there is twice mentioning of the lamb drinks. Well, I must admit, I cannot find solid information on that. Hebrew writings are very clear that the lamb that was sacrificed in the temple received a drink, water. The purpose of that was if a lamb has drunk before it was killed, the skinning would be easier. But beyond that, it's not clear to me. I haven't found any solid information at what time that drink was given to the lamb. And because it's to make the skinning easier, I think it should be long before the actual killing. I mean, giving a lamb a drink and then killing it 1 minute later, I think that doesn't aid the skinning. I have no experience with any of that, but that's just my feeling. But once again, the information I found is just inconclusive. Maybe it was very shortly before the killing. Could be. That would be great. Then the lamb that drinks in the temple drinks at the same time that Jesus was drinking. Scripture does not say like Jesus tasted the wine and instantly he died. There could be some time between it. Scripture is not very clear about it, but I get a distinct impression that it was a short time. It was not like Jesus got a drink and then 1 or 2 hours later he died. That's not the impression I get. So let's assume that the animal lamb that was killed during the ninth hour received that drink during the ninth hour. Just like Jesus received the drink and died very shortly after that. Well, that would, that would be a parallel. That would be great. But we cannot just ignore things to make it easy for us. Look, because on the third hour, the first animal lamb was killed, and that lamb also got his drink. And on that same third hour, Pilate convicted Jesus to death, and Jesus was led to the cross. And I haven't seen any hint, not even the slightest hint in scripture that Jesus received a drink during that time. So, well, it's inconclusive at best. Maybe something happened. It's not recorded in scripture, but, well, it's simply not there. So I'm not going to say, yes, this is the perfect parallel, but because it's not there. And that's both cases, both drinks, assuming it's very near the death of the lamb. But the Jewish writings are not clear about that. I didn't find any timing, but like I said, logic, I think that drink was given not 1 minute before the animal died, but more like an hour. But I don't know. Could be right, could be wrong. I don't know. But, because everything fits so nicely, somehow it must fit. I'm sure of that, but I cannot prove it, so I'm just telling you I can prove it, and it's up to you what you do with it.